Good evening, everyone. This is Erica, your host of the Anarchist Transmission. I hope everyone's having a good night. I currently have three of my hosts with me. I have my lovely fiance. Say hello, Kota.
Hello.
And then our native Serbian, we have Molly. Say hello, Molly.
Hello.
And of course, last but not least, our citizen of Soviet Kanukistan, our Soviet Kanukistani, Dale. How are you doing today, Dale?
I am doing well. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, boys and girls. Hello, children of all ages. I am coming to you live from the not so longer frozen north of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and welcome to the
You-
show.
Did
You mean
did
California?
Sadly, yes.
did it finally thaw out up there?
Yep, all the fire is thawing it out well nicely.
The
Okay.
polar bears and the mooses are on fire.
Yes, and for the
Actually,
record, Molly, it's just moose.
yes, I was
Moose.
about to say the
Isn't it?
plural of moose is
Isn't
moose.
it? Isn't it meese?
No.
No, don't pull that movie crap. Okay.
Okay.
I remember that movie. I don't remember what the name of that movie was, but I remember that movie.
Yeah, it's
The the
it's
plural of goose is geese. So what the heck
Meese.
is going on with moose? Is the plural meese?
Yes.
Fun fact about the plurals of moose. There's only one United States that started the trend of calling the plural of moose meese, and that's Colorado.
terrible. They're all too fucking high up there.
Colorado
And I don't
tried.
mean and I don't mean altitude.
They tried using the plural sense of moose as the same as geese, goose, geese, moose, meese, and apparently the highest rating of usage of it was in Colorado, and they had to massively introduce a curricular course to correct them that no, it is never going to be meese. It's just moose.
Okay.
There's a moose. There are many moose. Hey, look at the mooses.
Okay, this is my public service announcement to the people of Colorado. Okay, put the bong down. You've gone too far. Put the bong down.
As Coda's putting her bong down.
Anyways, so we have fun fun podcast ahead of us. Today we're going over Twitter wars when the left or the right can't argue anymore, and this is an interesting one. I'm gonna start off with one Twitter account, and we will transition to a different Twitter account. Then we are going over safe and rural areas. Was Tim Pool right? Spoilers, he was wrong. And on a fun note to end today's episode, we're going to do pizza. What's the best? And that's going to be a little debate among the hosts. So
Pizza,
we will see. Yes, pizza.
pizza.
So to start us up, we are going to start with the tweet that sparked this entire subject. And let's get that on screen for everybody. Let's see. So there was a interesting post, and actually, this is one of our hosts' roommates. Not the person tweeting this, but the photo in the tweet is Luna's roommate, and she is also trans, though you wouldn't be able to tell from the picture. And the person that posted this picture is a very poor arguer. I should say. She can't argue. Uh, the only
Oh,
thing
I
she
mean, crack does that to a person.
oh, yeah, that's true. The only thing she can really do is take a picture from someone's account and post it as if it's some sort of own, which it's not. And mind you, she's changed her profile picture
Oh yeah,
since
yeah.
Dale came around and told her she looked like a $3 crack whore.
Oh, Dale.
Well,
I hope we can pull up the tweet.
he wasn't wrong, and to be honest, she doesn't look much better
Yeah.
because she
She
is
moved. She moved up to a $5 crack whore.
yeah she's hmm, that's not right. Hold on, properties. Uh, there we go.
Oh no, she's so ugly. She's distorting the image.
Um, it, she's just about to hit 40 years old. She's either 38 or 39 right now. And I only know this because she apparently graduated from high school in 2003 or 2004.
Honestly, for a 40-year-old, she doesn't look that bad-ish.
Yes, well, you're looking at the makeup.
Yeah.
You are also looking at the photo she changed her profile to after I tweeted at her. So
Yeah, it's probably
that's why.
photoshopped.
Without fully knowing what kind of person she is, she doesn't really look all that bad. She just looks like another person who does makeup and probably looks just as homeless as many of other of us do.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm absolutely certain that we will run into the picture when we go down this rabbit hole. But this all started when Luna's roommate was telling this person, Karen Davis, that she's yelling at a brick wall, and she is. We all know.
Worth
We
noting, Karen Davis.
Karen.
Yes.
we all know that trans women are men. You don't have to scream it out loud. We all understand this. We all understand our biological origin. Doesn't change the fact that we have different lived experiences from men. You can't just group all men in together just like you can't group all women in together. They have different lived experiences. Um and it devolved from there with Layla basically saying that uh Rena wasted her life and health pretending to change sex. Um And when she ran out of arguments, this is what she came up with. This is a photo of a sick, unwell guy who needs help. Not healthy or normal. If this were my son, I'd have professional help and I'd be there because this is nuts looking. I mean, no offense, Coda, but this is kind of fucking hot.
I want that person on my team when it comes to the apocalypse. I don't care what gender they are.
Me too.
Honestly, they strongly remind me of like a character design from The Last of Us. I'm not kidding you. She literally does. She looks like if you throw some little dirt, just slap her around with some dirt, like she's been crawling around on her stomach to get away from zombies. She doesn't look anything different than just somebody who looks like I will fucking survive. Fuck you.
Can you show the picture again? I just want to look at it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what you just want to look at it.
Damn.
I say this fully. I say this fully as a 100% straight person. She doesn't look half bad.
Yeah,
Nope.
I'm
She
gonna
just
say
looks
like,
like a buff woman. She just looks like like somebody who goes to the gym a lot.
yeah, she doesn't
Yeah.
even look like a guy at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nobody can tell me the butt
Definitely has
chin
these.
is a giveaway. I got females in my family, full blown vagina holding females, those kinds, with freaking butt chins looking like cleft chin from freaking Timmy Turner and Fairy Odd Parents. Nah, she is a complete passable female with nothing second guessing her.
Well, I'll say this. She looks significantly more generic female, then do any of you remember the pro wrestler named China?
Yes.
Looks a lot more feminine than China.
I mean, her and Triple H used to be a big thing.
Yes. And she's biologically, or was, I guess, because she passed away, but biologically female. She passes more than China did.
So from there, things just devolved more and more. Some Irish freak. Uh, I'm talking someone that lives in Ireland, not someone that is descendant of the Irish.
I was just misplaced in the shipping cargo.
Um,
Do you
some
mean freak in a good way or a bad way?
bad way. Some Irish freak, Siobhan, basically says that it is nuts looking. You know what is also 100 times more nuts looking though, and then he posts these pictures. One of Thomas Massey
Thomas Massey.
and one of Lauren Boebert, both of whom have their kids holding firearms or their
I don't
families.
care what anyone says. The Thomas Massey picture is one of the most wholesome pictures I have seen for a while.
As
It's a
somebody
wonderful
from
picture.
as somebody from the party who literally these people are like projecting themselves, who say like, oh, this is unhealthy. They're saying, oh, they're cis, they're normal, they're white, they're entitled, whatever. I unfortunately come from that cesspool. I literally like these photos because they're just funny.
Um,
They're just hilarious. I look at these family photos with the guns. I'm just like,
so
okay.
Rena comes in. Yeah, hold on. Okay, yeah. Rena comes in uh saying that's great. It's honestly great to teach kids the respect and responsibility of firearms. Good on them for doing so. That's a great fucking take.
Yeah.
And then Layla comes in saying, "Stay away from kids, creep." I'm sorry, but there's a
Close
lot of
your
trans
legs, Layla.
yeah, there's a lot of trans people that have kids. I mean,
There's
I
a
have a
lot of
daughter.
human beings, a lot of human, organic, functioning fucking beings who have kids. There are worse people out there that have kids.
And here's where the shit hits the fan. A person going by the name of Rand McNally. Has anyone heard that name before?
It's on maps. I remember it from The Simpsons.
Oh, that's
We're
nasty.
all
Well,
going to Rand McNally.
that's exactly the point. Rand McNally is an atlas company. That's quite literally what they make is atlases. They make standalone maps and then they make atlases for the U.S. And around the 70s, they became a really big name in the atlas industry. And whenever you whenever a new truck driver comes into the industry, you're expected to buy a Rand McNally Atlas. I have one somewhere in this house
And
from
just to confirm,
2015.
what do you mean by an atlas? Is an atlas just like an old map?
And
Like an old
an
style
an
map?
atlas is uh an atlas is quite often a collection of maps. Uh
I had that in school.
definition. Yeah, a book of maps or charts.
Hmm.
Um So, as a truck driver, you're expected to get an atlas because you should be able to read not only a map, but all of the maps that cover all 50 states and know where your truck can and cannot go.
All right.
And you were spot on with that. I guess he was referencing um
Minor attraction people.
no, he the dude his name is supposed to be a reference to The Simpsons, but The Simpsons reference is in reference
We're
to
glow.
Rand McNally Atlas Company,
Mhm.
Isn't that grand?
which is right around where I jump in. So, Rena basically told Mr. McNally that he's super weird. And do you see yourself as some kind of moral crusader against kindness and equality? Like, is this some big adventure for you? You some kind of protagonist of a story? And I jump in. Rand McNally. This is the brand of the most accurate atlases in the US. Unfortunately, that is only a reputation that has followed the brand since the 70s, as they're often no longer accurate and become less so every year. Using the name, I have to assume that they believe themselves to be the arbiter of truth and a guide for all. And Rand McNally says, "No, dork, it's a Simpsons reference." And I said, "Stupid fucking reference when truckers are around."
Hmm.
And that's where we devolve. And Layla comes in saying, "Who cares what you think? Look at yourself. Holy hell, what a nightmare."
And
Dale,
yet, this nightmare is literally the best relationship I've had with any quote unquote normal motherfucker.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Dale comes in saying, "Considering that your profile picture makes you look like a $3 crack whore who is trying to cover up their own crack abuse with far too much makeup, I wouldn't be going after other people's profile pictures there. Something about people living in glass houses throwing stones."
She then immediately blocked me right after saying this.
Yes, this person is who you're bashing me for, so I assume you're an insane person. I don't do drugs. That's why I'm not messed up like you all, and I know what a woman is. Try not being a degenerate. Yeah, I never said I was a woman. I have always maintained I am a biological male trying to transition into the appearance of a woman. That makes me a transgender or transsexual, depending on your definition. Either way, I know I'm not a fucking woman.
I mean, you can always direct her to my direction.
Let me go to my actual page because I can't see her from my profile. I have to use the podcast's profile in order to
Mhm.
see her bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Yes. Nope, that's the wrong one.
Oh, actually, could you go back there for a moment? I just want to, for posterity's sake, show what I wanted to say to her before she blocked me, but
Oh,
unfortunately did not get the
yes.
chance to.
Nice job changing your profile picture after I pointed out you look like a cheap crack whore. Maybe if you are so insecure about your looks, and you should be, you shouldn't attack my friends for theirs. Also, congrats on upgrading your looks to $5 crack whore. No amount of makeup will cover up your shame, though. We're using the term crack whore a lot around here.
Nice ass. I love saying what your freaking Twitter has hold. All your secrets will come unrevealed, and I will beat your ass on freaking podcast.
Let's see. Okay. So somewhere in here, one of my friends actually did the exact same thing to her.
Very nice. As they say, I mean, fuck around, find out.
Yes.
There
Mrs.
it is.
Walker.
There's the $3 crack whore.
I know you're
Yeah.
not talking.
Oh, that's just when she's peaked at her highest. That was literally her best
Yeah,
moment in life.
And she still looked like a $3 crack whore.
I do, but I podcast.
her stepdad got tired of her, so she moved on to every fucking jock and quarterback and freaking teacher that would take her behind this freaking school freaking bleachers. And then she just evolved from there without having to actually go to the streets, without putting herself out there. She just played the party underneath the table.
Now, mind you, this profile picture that she keeps posting of me,
It's a fantastic one, by the way.
the only filter on this picture is a black and white with 2 hearts. That's
And
it.
maybe a little eyeliner.
No, that day I had put on eyeliner.
Oh, that was the day you actually did? Oh, cool. I never got to actually I remember seeing an actual picture. I'm sorry.
Other than that disgusting double chin that I've got, I think I look pretty damn fine.
At least your tits are perkier than hers and natural. That she defines herself as a woman is far past expiration date. Ma'am, you are a walking, talking, soggy freaking pear. All right. Anything about you juicy is just your blood.
It's surprising how one can look so soggy while also looking so anorexic. You'd think those two things wouldn't mix, but somehow they do in that person.
She's just as dry as her personality is. And
but
honestly, let me make this absolutely clear. Layla, if you're for some fucking reason watching this, you only deserve this because of your choices. If you had just either shutting the fuck up or understood, I disagree with this person, but I'm going to go mind my goddamn business, there would not have been this many people who would have eagerly put your ass down, even though we all agree that freaking putting people down and body shaming is an absolute disgusting act. But you deserve it.
Or even if you disagreed and you voiced it in some sort of, if you made some point rather than just going after people's looks. Right? If you presented an argument, even if it was a bad one, we probably still wouldn't be down this specific route.
But you deliberately chose to go this far. You deliberately chose to go after someone's appearance, for their freaking lifestyle, for who they are. And you absolutely have this audacity to expect that you don't deserve to be put down like the $3 crack whore and being taken up the ass with a pipe. No, you deserve everything bad coming your way. And I honestly hope that you end up falling face first and losing all of those pretty teeth so you can pass around those yummy gummies to pay off your bills.
So, that brings me to the next tweet that started off another Twitter war, and I'm telling you, this is how you know the left and the right don't have an argument anymore. When they devolve to such a childish tactic as to either name calling or insulting a person's looks, you know the argument's over. You've won. So when a person is categorizing all trans women as autogonophiles, you have to wonder where in the world they got this in their head. But
Well,
if
actually, sorry to interrupt, I do have an answer for that.
so do
They
I,
got
but
it
go ahead.
from a man named Ray Blanchard. I'm not sure if you are aware who that is.
I am.
He is the then yeah, for those who aren't, he is the man who coined that term originally, and ironically is the man who actually put together the DSM-5. So it's his. He has some weird theory on this whole thing in which I believe he labeled it as like there are only two types of transgender individuals, one of them being AGP and the other being something I can't remember, but like yeah, I will give them the benefit of the doubt in saying that they at least think they have a point because this one person has some theory about it, but it's not the most robust theory. It's not the most robust scientific theory that exists.
No, it's not, and it's laid on some very shaky ground.
Yeah.
Most of it being polling of inmates, which in and of itself is a shit sample size.
Yeah.
Um, but this is what sparked another Twitter war this week, calling all trans women autogynephiliacs, and I promptly responded in a very candid way. Is that why I have practically no fucking sex drive and barely had any sex drive since I was a teen? No. I don't get off to the idea of having a vagina. Perhaps you need to rethink your bullshit. And she responded, saying, yes, you do. You love it. It's inherently sexual to you. Admit it to yourself, go to therapy, and quit woman facing for your autogynephilia. Listen,
Oh, that's interesting. Someone who's never spoken to you before knows innately what gets you off. That's interesting.
yes, well, and I'm about to show you what I quote tweeted, but what is what is a person who tells you that you think something? It's one of two things. Can you name those two things?
I would say one of them might be someone who knows you very, very well on a deep personal level and might be right. And the other is someone who is completely full of shit and has no idea what they're talking about.
The first is a mind reader,
Ah,
and those don't
thank
exist.
you. Yeah.
The second is a narcissist, someone who is gaslighting you. They're trying to tell you what you think, and they're going to do it over and over and over to make you question whether or not you actually do think these things. Listen, if it wasn't in your head before, it's not in your head now. Stop letting these people control the way you think. And I came in with this. Seriously, this woman is off her fucking rocker. This is narcissistic gaslighting. And all of her followers need to know. Telling someone what they think of themselves makes you one of two things: a fucking psychic, which is impossible, or an abusive narcissist, which is infinitely more likely. I I when it comes to narcissism, uh, I'll bring this in. Uh, has anyone ever heard the narcissist prayer?
No. Is it a song?
No.
Oh, I have heard that. I just didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, that didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it.
Hmm.
Uh, I had actually posted a uh, a topic on Twitter about it, uh, signifying, or not signifying, but trying to wake some of my followers out of the haze, because there are three people that I'm friends with that were following this woman, and I I posted about narcissism and their abusive tactics. One of them is gaslighting, just straight up gaslighting by telling you what you think or what you feel in such a repetitive fashion that you actually start believing them. The second is them telling you that you did or did not do something when the opposite is true. So, for instance, um, if if Coda didn't trust me, then every morning that she doesn't remember me giving her a kiss before I leave, someone could see what I do when she says what no kiss as narcissistic abuse, because I tell her no, you were just asleep, you don't remember, but it happened. She doesn't remember it happening. Narcissists use that tactic and do anything and everything they can to make you question your sanity
Mhm.
as a form of control. Um, Let me see if I can. Uh, okay, so here's my post about it. So apparently, some have failed to learn how to spot a narcissist, even though a lot of the narcissists they interact with don't even attempt to hide it. I quoted uh, the prayer of a narcissist and continued, "This is how a narcissist rationalizes their behavior. What are some key traits of a narcissist? Socio- Sociopathy, aka gaslighting. Sociopathy presents through several methods: telling a person what that person thinks so much and so often that the target starts to believe that they actually think what they're being told. 2. Telling a person what they feel. This follows the same path as the first. 3. Telling a person they did or did not do or say something, when in fact the opposite is true, and uh, and done so with such frequency that uh, the person begins to believe themselves to be going insane. While uh, while a sociopath does these things, not all sociopaths are narcissists. The key trait that separates the two is that a narcissist actually believes that what they are doing is right and that everyone should conform to their worldview. Sociopaths just have fun with controlling people. They don't care about the morality behind what they're doing. Whereas narcissists believe themselves to be completely moral and believe what they're doing is for the good of everyone. Comments? Questions?
Now, also, one last thing to note on narcissists, one other trait that separates them from your standard everyday sociopath is an extremely fragile ego
Yes, like
and
Layla's.
inability to handle even the most minute criticism. Like sociopaths don't give a shit what you think or what you think of them. Narcissists really matters that you think they're great.
And while a lot of people believe Trump to be a narcissist, he is only a sociopath.
Yeah, like Trump, for all his flaws, has a pretty funny and good self-deprecating style of humor. Narcissists do not. And a narcissist is not going to make fun of themselves for in to make people laugh.
Trump is just
And Trump
egotistical.
does. Yeah, but he can take a joke. Narcissists can't.
Um, so that's the whole that's where I was leading with the whole posting my profile picture. They think that they're getting to me. I don't care. I really don't. But the second that someone posted their picture, they changed it.
Yep. Not
That's
only did they change their picture, they changed their background picture.
yeah, that's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, really, if you live in a glass house, don't fucking throw stones at people. Alright? They're gonna come back to you.
Okay, so moving on. Um, another example for everyone. This is about whether or not it's actually safe to be in rural areas, especially if you're going to stand on your constitutional rights. I do not believe that it is something that should alarm or upset anyone to stand out on a public access, be it a sidewalk, the steps of City Hall, the steps of a courthouse, whatever, with a sign that reads, God bless the homeless vets. As much as I am an atheist, I understand people have the right to whatever the fuck they want to say, so long as it's not inciting violence.
Mhm.
It's not an immediate call to action. This tweet is about a YouTube channel called Honor Your Oath Civil Investigations. Or Civil Rights Investigations. I can't remember which one of the two it is. But it's a man named Jeff who goes around the entire country holding a sign on public sidewalks in front of City Hall, um, all everywhere that he is legally allowed to be, holding a sign that says "God bless the homeless vets." Well, over the past couple weeks, he's been working his way through Missouri. Now, this is not his video. This is not his actual video. It's news coverage over what happened in two of the towns, and I mean towns, in Mississippi. Let's pull it up.
I think
For
I saw
developing
some of
tonight.
the
You may
news.
have seen these videos being
Damn it. What?
I said I think I saw. Wasn't one of those interactions actually a good one? And he talked to the mayor or something.
There were three interactions that he had posted. One of them was in oh, I can't remember the name of the town, but uh yeah, he did have a good interaction in Mississippi, just not the first two. Uh so let's get into this news coverage.
shared online. Tense encounters between police and a man standing at the steps of City Hall in Ocean Springs and Waveland. The man claims his constitutional rights were violated in both cities when officers demanded to see his ID and told him to leave the property. Just in the last few hours, Waveland's mayor releasing a statement saying the man was making city workers uncomfortable before the recording started, and that's why police were called. Noah Noble.
Let's get something straight, people. Your feelings don't matter if you are a public employee. That means if you are a city official, mayor, city councilman, doesn't matter. Go fuck yourself. If you are an employee at City Hall, meaning, you didn't take an oath to anything, but you do clerking, that sort of shit, it doesn't fucking matter. You are a public employee. Your feelings are not valid here.
Yes. If you don't want to be videotaped, get a job in the public sector.
Private sector.
Yeah, sorry, private sector, yes.
That means if you are a cop, a a a fireman, a fucking ambulance worker, anywhere that you are in a public setting, even if you are not a public employee, if you are in a public setting, you have zero, absolutely zero, nada, goose egg. You have no right to privacy in public. None whatsoever.
If you want privacy in public, it is your job to create it.
Yes. Let's continue.
Has a closer look.
Am I required to give you ID?
Yes, you are.
What would happen if I don't give it to you?
You're going to jail. Period.
In this video posted to
Good morning, gentlemen.
YouTube,
Okay. So we'll continue in a second. Let's go ahead and discuss what you need again in order to obtain identification from a subject. Dale, do you remember what you
Let's
need?
all say it, let us all say it together, folks.
Reasonable, articulable suspicion. Reasonable, articulable suspicion, which means there needs to be at least two objective facts that would lead a personable excuse me,
Reasonable
I'm
person.
sorry.
That's all right.
Two objective facts, not opinions, fact,
Not feelings.
not feelings, facts that would lead a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been, is currently being, or is about to be committed. When you have someone standing on the steps of City Hall with a sign that reads, "God bless the homeless vets," you don't have two objective facts that would lead a reasonable person to believe that they're breaking a law. You don't even have one objective fact to believe someone is breaking the law. You have nothing. You have someone that is standing on a traditional public forum expressing their freedom of speech, no matter how much you dislike it. I have said it before and I'll say it again. I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. I think some people who believe in God are fucking wackos. I'm not going to say that they can't have those beliefs and that they can't express those beliefs. Those are their beliefs to have, and I think they're all the better for expressing them in this day and age.
self-proclaimed civil rights investigator
No.
Jeffrey Gray is having a tense
All right, cool.
interaction with Waveland police. But minutes
What for?
earlier, this is what Gray was doing. Standing outside City Hall, holding a sign that says, "God bless our homeless veterans."
That's not true. Morning, man. God bless our homeless veterans. Please pray for our homeless vets.
I reached out to Gray to understand why he was there in the first place.
So that was May 30th. That was, I think, Ocean Springs.
I just wanted to stand out in front of City Hall there on the public sidewalk in Waveland for about 30, 45 minutes like I normally do and just spread that message of God bless our homeless vets. And on the other side of my sign it says hope not hate. A large part of the homeless population is our veterans, and I think that people should show compassion and love and support to our homeless people, especially if they're veterans.
Sir, I'm standing on a public sidewalk engaged in constitutionally protected
Correct.
activity.
Correct. But I'm letting you know you're going to go to jail, no questions asked.
Even if I'm standing on a public
Yes,
sidewalk.
yes. So how many times do I got to explain it to you?
They approached me, didn't want to have any kind of conversation.
Stop. Pause. So, you acknowledge that the person, as a cop, you've acknowledged that the person is engaged in a constitutionally protected activity. You have no objective facts to believe that they're engaged in any sort of crime. and you still think that you have a legal right to that person's identification. This is going to be a lawsuit, or could be a lawsuit, that strips this officer of any and all qualified immunity. Now, I'm sure people have heard me talk ad nauseum about qualified immunity. It's basically the Nuremberg defense for fucking cops, for United States cops or federal agents. It's the Nuremberg defense. Oh, well, we were just following orders. Doesn't matter.
Well, thankfully, at least doesn't matter in some cases, but unfortunately, it still matters in a lot of other cases in the U.S.
Yes, and this is one of those things that I actually donate money for. You know, Ashley donates to the FPC.
Yeah.
I donate to the Institute for Justice.
What is the
Because
Institute for Justice?
the Institute for Justice has had a, might you say, hard on for qualified immunity for quite a few years now. They've been trying to get rid of it. They've been successful in one state, Colorado.
Oh.
Colorado has done, I believe Colorado has done away with qualified immunity in their state. However, this is still a federal standard. So unless it either goes away by law at a federal level, goes away by a federal court decision from SCOTUS, or goes away in all 50 states, it will remain in the United States until then. I think qualified immunity is a bunch of hokum, and I want it gone.
Conversation, didn't want to do any kind of investigation, and asked me what I was doing. They just demanded my ID, told me that I was going to jail, no questions asked if I didn't give ID, and trespassed me out of there under threat of arrest.
When Gray took his sign to Ocean Springs, he had another run-in with police.
Ocean Springs was just as bad of a train wreck, unfortunately, as it was in Waveland, if not worse.
So let me explain this to you again.
Freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
I don't care.
If you want,
let me explain this again.
If they're trespassing
let me
I'll
explain
leave.
this again. You're trespassed.
Okay, I'll leave.
Now you're done. Go get your freaking lawyer and sue the city if you think that's a violation.
I would rather not do that.
Then do that, because I can tell you what, you're not going to go anywhere with it. You understand me?
I would rather not do that. I would rather you respect my constitution protected rights, especially being a veteran.
I do. I do
well, you
very much
don't.
every day.
You're trespassing me
but
off
when
of
you
public
start
property.
becoming confrontational and telling me what I can and can't do, guess what? You're gonna lose every time.
Can we send that one to the war, like overseas? Can we just pick him up, throw him in, hand him a gun that he maybe wants, and then just send him off to war? I would not cry if he died for our country.
I want to remind everyone that could possibly ever listen to this channel to remember something very, very important. Who do you think is going to come take your guns when civil war breaks out?
The cops.
The cops. The federal agents. Your local agencies. It's not going to be Joe Schmo next door knocking on your door with a flashlight saying, oh, well, you have to hand in your guns now. No. The cops are going to come break in your door, and there is going to be all-out firefight in the house. They are going to care no more about laws that govern police action, such as wanton disregard for life, which brings up a good side note. Two of the cops in the Breonna Taylor shooting,
Mhm.
that was one of their charges when they were brought up on charges: wanton disregard for human life. And the qualifiers for that charge are basically if it comes from discharging a firearm, you have to have done something that violated one of your 4 weapon safety rules. Um, if you're a Marine, you learned treat, never, keep, keep. Treat every weapon as if it's loaded. Never point your weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot. Keep your fingers straight and off the trigger until you intend to fire. Keep your weapon on safe until you intend to fire. Now, for pistols, you don't generally have a safety.
You
So,
don't?
no, generally you don't. Now, hammer-fired pistols generally do, but in the age of striker-fired pistols, you generally don't have a safety on it. I've seen a safety on the SIG P365 and a safety on the SIG P320, but they are not commonplace among either of those models. You basically have to custom order the fire control unit with an external safety on it. Now the military has the SIG P320 with the external safety, but those models don't really hit the civilian market all that much.
Right.
So in the Breonna Taylor case, with those 2 cops, the charge being wanton disregard for human life, they shot through walls, which means they didn't have positive identification of their target, which means they weren't pointing at what they intended to shoot. They were pointing where they thought they should shoot, but they didn't have positive ID of their target. Let's see.
On that note, I'm wondering how much, how many inches or maybe even half inches of like a good solid metal do you think it would take to reinforce a wall to stop a bullet? Or a general caliber or pistol caliber bullet?
Depends what kind of materials you're gonna use. What kind of material you want to use.
What do you think would be the most efficient? Like, say one doesn't have $1 million to spend. What is the most price efficient way to reinforce a wall against standard pistol caliber bullets?
You're not going to believe the ghetto version.
What?
Newspaper. Phone books.
Really?
You get them thick ass freaking newspapers, New York Times. You get them phone books, you rip them phone books in half and you layer them up against your wall or in your walls if you want. And that will literally slow down some significant fire.
Well, I mean, if you want something ghetto, you can always use sandbags.
That's true. I was more just thinking maybe like sheet metal, like you just get like some like I don't know, like a
Phone
inch
books
thick
are free
like,
though. Phone books and newspaper
That's
are
true.
free. You go around
Alright,
town,
well-
you go outside of town, you grab all the ones you can get.
Yeah. Or when I say I don't necessarily mean like something for someone who has $0, but something for someone who doesn't want to spend like excess of like I don't know $20,000-$30,000.
Probably then a mixture between some actual like I don't want to say just insulation foam because that's not specifically it, but it looks like insulation foam. It just hardens once it's done. You could
Would sheet
fill it in
metal not?
between.
Would sheet metal not be good to just like put some like
You
sheets
would
of metal against the wall?
you would need a significant amount of sheet metals, or you would need some incredibly tough fucking metal.
Well, here's the thing. Sheet metal often comes unannealed,
Hmm.
which means it hasn't been heat treated,
Oh,
and that means it's probably going to be a little bit brittle. A bullet might be able to get through that. Real quick, Stoner mentioned in the chat that he's heard a few sheriffs say that them and their deputies will not allow gun confiscation in their counties no matter what. And my response to that is Torrance County, New Mexico. Has anyone heard of Torrance County, New Mexico?
no.
Okay, it is the 7th Judicial District of New Mexico. And the sheriff for Torrance County, New Mexico, earlier this year had stated very clearly that him and his deputies would not enforce any COVID restrictions anywhere in the county, be it in a courtroom, in public, or in private. They were not going to do it. And then about a month later, one of the sheriff's deputies arrested a woman in a courtroom for not wearing a mask. And when confronted about it, he got in the person's face. I think we've talked
I
about
did see that.
I think we've talked about James Freeman before on this channel.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, when it comes down to it, sheriffs are nothing but politicians, and their deputies are nothing but common law enforcement. If they
Yes.
feel they're going to lose their job, chances are they're going to follow orders.
When it comes down to it, the only thing that may deter them from doing stuff like that is bullets coming back at them.
Exactly, which is why I encourage everyone to be armed to the teeth. I don't care. I sincerely do not care, because cops are going to have to learn that they follow the same standard in my house. If you break in my door and I didn't hear you announce yourself and I didn't open the door for you, you are a threat to my life and the lives of those around me. I am going to take a shot at you. And I hope you are good at one of two things. Either you're really good at aim or you're really good at ducking.
Dale, in your
Yeah.
question about material for bullet resistance and bulletproof, I did a quick Google. You have a few options. One of it is called ballistic fiberglass. That was the go-to, most cost-effective and convenient for bulletproofing walls.
Is that like bulletproof glass?
Yes.
No, kind of. It is. Okay, you know what fiberglass is? That cotton stuff.
Yeah.
It's made of. Okay, same thing, but it's going in your walls. It's not going to be just one big sheet like metal you're talking about. But this material is meant to withstand or slow down the basically the penetrating damage. So it's kind of like going to go into a giant freaking ballistic jelly, similar thing, but with fiberglass. And so that'll be in your walls. That's one layer of convenient proofing. You can also use graphene, which do not get that mixed up with graphite, which is in pencils. But
Actually,
graphene is remarkably thin, and
Gra-
it is strong enough, but it is also
Are you slowly morphing into somebody named Ian?
no, but I am
She-
reading off what Google says,
Oh.
since you didn't Google this yourself.
Coda,
What?
graphene is graphite in one layer thick, or one atom thick layers.
Yeah, I have two tabs here, making sure I Googled the differences, and I have a vague understanding. I'm not going into a scientific freaking breakdown on how he can use it if he gets his hands on it, but good God, that's what Google says.
Yes,
I do have to mention the meme whenever someone says graphene.
Yeah, well, as much as Ian has gone down the rabbit hole. I went down that rabbit hole long before he ever mentioned anything on Tim Pool's show. I am a huge advocate for scientific advancement in graphene technology. Body armor could be extremely thin, extremely lightweight. We just need to stop giving away our scientific advancements to non-westernized countries that want nothing but our downfall.
Mostly China.
I want that freaking
China,
material
Russia,
that you can't
blah,
really
blah, blah.
stab. I want that material. I want a whole outfit made from that material. I don't want to get stabbed.
I mean, I had to do the math. You could quite literally stop a 50 caliber bullet with a 3-layer thick sheet of graphene.
Damn.
We're talking 50 BMG. Now, that's not going to stop it from bruising you and probably still killing you from impact.
Maybe some internal bleeding if you survive.
But
you're not going to end up being with more holes than you were born with.
Yeah, it will not penetrate the body armor.
So it would not go through your walls, or if the thing that he was trying to, if the thing that he was trying to go through was not directly connected to you, you're probably fine.
These are all factors under basic standards. These are nothing special, nothing circumstantial, nothing extravagant. These are all basic. Somebody at an average distance shot, and the bullet has gone through your home. Here's how you can reduce the damage, especially if it's coming through and hurting you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this video.
I spoke with Ocean Springs Police Chief Mark Dunstan about the recorded interaction.
We're doing an internal review of the officer's actions right now. We're certainly going to remedy any problems that we found with the officer's actions.
Noah Noble, WLOX News Now.
And Gray told us not
Okay, so there were actually 2 videos from the same news station. I'm going to pull up the
tonight
next one.
constitutional questions after a man says his rights were violated by police in Ocean Springs and Waveland. It was all caught on camera. Take a listen.
I'm standing on a public sidewalk engaged in constitutionally protected activity.
Correct. But I'm letting you know you're going to go to jail, no questions asked.
Even if I'm standing on a public sidewalk?
Yes. How many times do I got to explain it to you?
But when somebody tells you you have to leave and you can't do it in front of a city building, guess what? You got to go. Just that simple.
No, it's not that simple. It is not that simple, Officer Wilder. Not at all.
As we first told you earlier today, a self-styled civil rights investigator stood outside City Hall in both Ocean Springs and Waveland telling people, God help our homeless veterans. In both cases, he was told to present his ID and either leave or go to jail. New tonight, the same man held the same sign at Gaucher City Hall, but the outcome was different. Noah Noble shows us what happened.
So that was the good interaction. Gaucher.
Oh, just sorry to interrupt. For all you Americans out there, it's not Gaucher, it's Gautier.
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 Yes, well, that's how they pronounce it down in Mississippi.
Yes.
God bless the homeless veterans.
Yeah. Are you a homeless vet?
I'm a vet, yes.
Are you homeless?
No.
Oh, you're just...
Yeah.
Okay, you're just supporting them or something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, do you work here?
I do.
Oh, okay.
That's civil rights investigator Jeffrey Gray talking with Gaucher Mayor Casey Vaughn outside of City Hall.
If you know of any that are homeless, we have programs set up to help them.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good to hear. Are you a vet yourself?
No, I'm not. But,
okay.
We partner with American Legion and they help, but we have avenues available for people. He introduced himself, asked who I was. I told him I was Mayor Vaughn. And then we just interacted some, and he was very polite to our staff. We had citizens come and go past him. He never really interacted other than pray for a homeless vet is all he asked and said to him. He didn't harass the citizens or anybody on city government property. He was just very civil and bringing awareness at our Veterans Tribute Tower in front of City Hall.
I would hope that that's the way they would react and do the right thing and be respectful of our civil rights and respectful of our homeless veterans. You know, Gaucher is the way. That's what I say. They should do it. Every city hall should do it the way Gaucher did.
I sat down with Gaucher Police Chief David Bever to get his opinion on the videos. Was he doing anything that would have warranted y'all to step in and?
No, he just was holding a sign. You get the First Amendment of the Constitution, which protects our freedom of speech, and the public setting, public place, like our city hall, everybody has a right.
Chief Bevers told me he stresses the importance of first impressions between the officers and the public.
The police departments in our communities, we are usually the public face of the communities. Most people have interactions with us compared to other staff, so kind of like ambassadors, and people's perception of our city is going to come a lot off based on our interactions.
In Mississippi, vagrancy laws were struck down by our Supreme Court. The only way a person can legally be removed from public property is if they're threatening someone.
I want your ID.
Can we go over there and do this?
So, vagrancy used to be a really, really big deal in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. And not that people were actually vagrants, but the laws surrounding vagrancy. So, a vagrant is a person without a settled home or regular work who wanders from place to place and lives by begging. There were states in the Union that would actually arrest truck drivers for vagrancy. And this was brought to light in the old Chris Christopherson movie called Convoy. Has anyone heard of that movie?
I've heard of the song that inspired the movie, but I never watched the movie.
Let's open a new tab to the right. YouTube. I don't think I can find the scene. I'll show you guys before we start after hour, or after we've started after hours. But sheriffs, especially sheriffs, when they didn't like a trucker, or they didn't like their truck, how loud it was, stuff like that, if that driver stopped in their county, they would have them arrested for vagrancy because they were a wanderer. They were often owner-operators, so they didn't have what most would consider regular work, and they didn't have a settled home. Their home was their truck. And so these law enforcement officers would enforce vagrancy laws, which were bull to begin with.
So I'm off the property? Here. Okay. My ID is right here.
Because I have a valid reason to be here, and I have a valid reason to ask you for identification.
So what about when an officer asked Gray for his ID? If somebody's out here in a similar situation, just standing on the sidewalk, an officer comes up and asks for ID, do they have to present that ID, or what is that process?
No, in the state of Mississippi, the only time you have to have ID is when you have your driver's license operating a motor vehicle.
Chief Dunstan also told me both the city and emergency dispatch phone lines have been tied up with calls since the video went viral.
Okay, so I guess in the state of Mississippi, they have a similar law to Texas. Texas Penal Code 38.02, which basically says unless you're arrested or you are operating a motor vehicle, you do not have to give law enforcement officers your identification.
Hundreds and hundreds of the same people just keep calling over and over again. It certainly is not helping. It's just complicating matters. And the language being used towards the young ladies who answer these phone calls is certainly not appreciated, nor does it indicate that they're from this area.
This isn't the first time that Gray has had run-ins like these. On his YouTube channel called Honor Your Oath, he has nearly 900 videos, and some of his encounters have sparked lawsuits.
Yeah, I have a lawsuit pending in Blackshear, Georgia, where they actually cited me with being an unlawful parade for standing on the sidewalk in front of their city hall and ran me off under threat of arrest. And I have a lawsuit pending in Alpharetta, Georgia, where they actually put me in cuffs and trespassed me apparently from the entire town of Alpharetta for just spreading that message of God bless the homeless veterans.
Noah Noble, WLOX, News Now.
Well, a lot of people, when they encounter Jeff, believe that he's begging. And a lot of people think that begging is illegal. But it's not. In fact, the Supreme Court has upheld several times now that soliciting charitable donations, aka begging, in a public forum is freedom of speech. Which comes back full circle to the infamous North Carolina Mount Air case. I think it's Mount Air. Mount Airy. I can't remember the exact name of the city. But Spike Cohen actually took a real lead in that, where a veteran was sitting on a sidewalk, and the police kept trying to enforce an unlawful city ordinance keeping people from soliciting charitable donations. And the vet had a service dog, and the service dog got tased by the police and was later found dead, run over by a vehicle.
Holy crap.
And we've talked before about how it's good old boy country down there. Well, when they took it to court, the court basically roadblocked them from getting the body camera footage of the police that were on site when they did what they did. And anyone who watches it can see how insane these cops are acting. And it's one of those cases where, unless you have a very good stomach, I wouldn't suggest watching the video.
I have
What?
a kind of question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, what actually brings these people to do this sort of stuff? What is like the trigger? What is what
Like the
happens
cops?
in the brain? Yeah, in the cops, in the brain of the
Have you
cops.
ever heard of the word contempt of cop?
No?
Well, when it comes down to it, certain mental disorders are more common in extremely high IQ people and extremely low IQ people. Extremely high IQ people that have sociopathy, they generally tend to stay away from career fields where they could be put in danger.
Mm.
Where sociopaths of low IQ generally gravitate towards more dangerous career fields.
Right.
Law enforcement being one of them. So when you take a look at law enforcement, the domestic abuse rate within families of law enforcement,
Isn't it like 40%?
that's on the low end. That's the reported percentage. When in reality, the estimates are at least twice as much.
But like
80%.
you know how the cops and basically Democrats are like do mental health screening checks, and it's like the same here in Serbia. People want fucking mental health screening checks for fucking gun owners. Why don't you apply that to the cops?
Well,
Like, surely they get this.
they're supposed to, but the mental health checks that law enforcement officers generally go through only test for certain things. Because to be a law enforcement officer, you have to have an assertive personality.
Right.
And generally, the most assertive people are going to be sociopaths.
Right.
So it's quite literally a desired trait in police. You are going to have a very hard time distinguishing someone with an average IQ from someone with someone who's dominant with an average IQ from a person who's low IQ with sociopathy.
Hmm.
To gain that sort of insight, you actually have to see how they act outside of your office if you're a psychologist.
Right. Generally, one will commit crimes and the other won't.
Yeah.
And it is worth noting, as I think I've mentioned this to you before, Molly, that we basically know the IQ range that is responsible for like all petty violent crime.
Yeah.
And it's not 100, it's not 110. It's somewhere between 80 and like 95, or 80 and like 93. And if you
Probably.
happen to be in that range, then the likelihood that you are just going to commit petty violence against people is significantly higher than if you are in any other IQ range. And I would argue that if you were to IQ test a lot of these cops, maybe you're not going to get an IQ of 80, but you're probably going to get somewhere in that range.
You're gonna find cops are going to be most likely in the 85 to 98 point IQ range.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I hate the idea of an IQ test because it doesn't measure your potential for a gain of intelligence. It's only a snapshot. It does help to tell where these cops come from and what their tendencies might be based upon their IQ.
Mm-hmm.
But don't. Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Don't you want to have a cop who is a pretty like high IQ so they don't do something stupid?
Well,
because everything they do is oh, sorry to interrupt. It's a life-changing moment. Like, you getting arrested, that's on your record for life.
So we as citizens would want that. The state would not want that.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit more complicated than that. When it comes to policing is a dangerous fucking job. If you are on patrol, it's dangerous. Just as my job is dangerous, it's at least as dangerous, if not more so, to be a cop. And so
Yeah.
the higher IQ officers that you're going to find in any agency are more likely to take a desk job than they are to be a patrolman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're more likely to be the ones interrogating you after the fact rather than arresting you.
Yeah, so that's why I have a proposition. So basically, in World War II, in the Soviet Union, there were these penal agents, which was literally fucking prisoners from jail that got released. And
So
they,
Wagner, basically.
yeah, and even like modern day, like Russian soldiers have this, like regiments. They have normal soldiers mixed in with these to keep like squad cohesion and discipline. So you could do something like that as well to keep those like low IQ people in check.
Well, that's a fundamental um that's a complete contradiction to the fundamental principles upon which the US was founded.
Can you elaborate why?
Um Even though cops are uh government actors, they are not military. So even though there are some controls on the actions of police officers, we can't hold them to the same standard that we can hold military personnel to. We can't force them to uh, act the same way uh, military do. So we can't tell them, hey, you don't have these rights anymore, like we do with the military. In the military, you basically you have no freedom of speech in uniform. You have no right to a paycheck to begin with, even though you're employed by the federal government. If the government shuts down and they don't pay you, too bad, so sad. You signed the contract. You don't have that right.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. That was a big thing back in 2011 when the government was about to shut down. They
Mhm.
said be prepared to not get paid because if we shut down, you're not getting paid.
Is it just they'll get back pay later, or they won't even get that?
You won't even get back pay.
Hmm.
You signed up. It was voluntary. You gave up that right. Um, Things like owning your own firearms. Now, off base, you can have your own firearms, but you still have to have permission from your battalion CO or whatever unit you're in. If you are part of a regiment, then you have to have the regimental commanding officer's approval. If you're in division, you have to have the division CO's approval just to
But
own off base. Now, if you already owned them before you joined, you can do whatever. But you can't bring them on base. If you bring them on base, you have to store them in your unit's armory. You have no control over your own life as a military uh a military service member.
Hmm.
Uh that's quite different from being a police officer. In uniform, generally the the rules are set at the uh, the agency's level, there are a few rules set at the state level. Everything else is just basically court precedent that you have to follow. So Terry versus Ohio. What's the other one? Pennsylvania versus Mims. You've got to know those cases. You need to be familiar with the decisions and what you can and cannot do based upon those decisions. So as a law enforcement officer, you still have freedom of speech in uniform. You still have the right to carry your own firearm in uniform. You don't have to get approval from your commanding officer. And you have to be paid. They have to pay you. They can't just skip a paycheck. But one of those other important rights that military service members don't get that cops do is freedom of association. They can freely associate with whoever they want. There are certain standards at which they're supposed to interact that are set at the local level with their fellow officers. But besides that, if there's someone they don't like within their department, if it's at all feasible for them to stay away from that person, they don't have to interact with them. That is not something you get in the Marine Corps or in any military service branch. It doesn't matter if I don't like you, I have to interact with you.
If I'm being honest, this is the sort of thing that needs to be applied to the police.
Well, if we make the police more like the military, we're going to hear increased calls for defunding the police. And you know what? I'm all for it.
I mean, speaking of defunding the police, before I was like, no, this is a bad idea. They would fucking increase crime and shit, right?
Yep.
And then you kind of look at it and it's like, where the police kind of are the problem that's kind of causing some of the crime.
It would increase crime in certain. It would increase crime in Soros DA type of areas where.
Yeah.
It would increase crime in the areas where the people are voting for more crime. But in the areas where the people aren't, it won't increase crime.
It's going to increase deaths or unjustified homicides in areas where people can't defend themselves.
Yes.
It will also increase justified homicides in areas where people can defend themselves.
Yes.
So if we defunded the police in Illinois and in Iowa, two things are going to happen. In Chicago, there's going to be a lot more murders. And in Iowa, there's going to be a lot more justified homicides.
Yes.
Now, the rate of which will still be different because you have a larger population in Illinois than you do in Iowa. But you're going to see a similar trend between the cities. Probably see about a 20% increase in murders in Chicago, and say Des Moines, you're going to see probably about a 20% increase in justified homicides.
And well, you will for some. I would be willing to bet that at some point the justified homicides are going to go down
Yep.
once the criminal element has been reduced to a certain level. There are going to be a lot less justified homicides.
Yep, and a lot less
You're-
murders.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on because it depends on how if there are a lot more murders in say Illinois, there might be just a lot more people arrested for murder, and then the murder like people will just not defend themselves anymore because they don't want to go to jail for defending themselves against deranged violent against
Mm-hmm.
deranged criminals.
No,
Mm.
what I'm saying is, such as Des Moines,
Mhm.
if there's an increase in justified homicides, eventually that will drop off.
Mhm.
There will still be a number of murders in Des Moines, but that will also drop off. They will still happen, but not at the rate at which they were because the people committing justified homicide have taken care of most of the people committing murder.
Right.
That was
For
the
whereas
that was the entire idea of constitutional carry in Iowa. Let the people defend themselves.
yeah. And then it seems to work. And I don't. I'm sure I don't need. I'm sure I don't need to point you to FBI defensive gun use statistics.
Okay, so we talked about James Freeman during that episode, or during that little discussion. I want to bring up what the Torrance County courts, the 7th District Courts of New Mexico, are doing.
Where's your escort?
Excuse me?
Where's your escort?
What do you mean?
You are only supposed to be here on official business with an escort. I said, where is your escort? Because per the court order, you are required to be escorted by law enforcement.
An escort?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure prostitution is illegal in New Mexico. I don't know if you're trying to solicit me right now.
So I will start this all off with saying that because of James Freeman's coverage over the corruption in the 7th District Courts, with the magistrate, a hearing officer, and one of the court clerks, the judge that oversees the 7th District basically entered into the court records that James is not allowed in the court without a police escort, whether that be a sheriff's deputy or a police officer from the city. And it was all because people were calling the court. And it specifically says in the order, it's because people were calling the court. Not because of anything that James did, but because people were calling the court. So he is being punished for the actions of people that he can't control.
That doesn't sound very legal.
It's not. It's not at all. But they're trying to basically ban him because they know that all of the deputies except for 2 are going to tell the court clerk and the court or the hearing officer and the judge to go fuck themselves.
I don't know if you're trying to solicit me, but I don't appreciate it. Matter of fact, I think I'll head to the sheriff's department right now and let them know you're trying to solicit me. Is that what you're doing?
No, sir, I said.
Are you trying to be my escort?
I said, where is your escort? Because per the court order, you are required to be escorted by law enforcement.
So you're trying to be my escort?
No, sir.
How long have you been in the escort business?
So in late January 2023, I was at the Torrance County Sheriff's Department, which shares a building with the 7th Judicial District Court. And while I was there, I kind of accidentally ran into this clown, Gordon Bennett, who was a hearing officer there. I realized quickly he needed to be exposed for the unqualified public servant that he was. I ran a couple of stories on him over the next few weeks. My audience did reach out and let the 7th Judicial District Court know that Gordon Bennett was ridiculous, out of control, and needed to be removed. As a result of you guys exercising your right to redress grievance with your government, the 7th Judicial District Court under CEO Jason Jones and Chief Judge Mercedes Murphy ordered that I not be allowed in any of the courthouses anymore because I...
Okay, so let's read this. Dear Mr. Springer, as the CEO of the 7th Judicial District Court, it has been brought to my attention that court staff are being harassed on your behalf and has impacted court resources. It doesn't matter if it's on his behalf. It matters who's doing it. If he's not the one harassing people, if he's actually coming to the court and doing, lawful activities, that's not his business. That's not his problem. That's your problem. If you've got a problem with people harassing your staff, maybe you should train your staff better, and maybe you should learn the definition of the First Amendment.
Because and also, how is having a police escort going to address this problem?
It's not.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything.
The court has issued an administrative order on March 1st, 2023, that if you are required to be in court or have official court business, you will check in with the Torrance County Sheriff's Office to be escorted and accompanied pursuant to the administrative order. This is not legal, and this is the Court Executive Order Jason E. Jones. So I definitely encourage anyone watching this to look at the phone number. I will give it to you. It is 575-835-0050, extension 20. Go ahead and call the Court Executive Officer, and tell him that he is a fucking idiot.
Just tell him your opinion. Speak for yourself.
My opinion is he's a fucking idiot. Now, I've already done this. So, like I said, I encourage anyone and everyone watching to call that number. Again, it's 575-835-0050, extension 20. If you would like to send a fax, even though that's antiquated as fuck, the number is 575-835-2033.
Can I send a solid black fax?
Send a solid black fax, except for a white box in the center with black writing, fuck you.
Yes.
I honestly believe the CEO of the 7th Judicial District Court is an idiot.
Sorry to interrupt
exposed.
just real quick.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna dip out a little early. I've got Kingdom stuff later, but I'm also having a bad sun rash right now.
That is absolutely fine. We'll get Benadryl tomorrow.
Oh, I'm gonna need some cortisone cream or something because this is getting unbearable.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a good night. Talk to you
Take
later.
care. Hope you feel
Night-night.
better.
Okay, video.
Incompetent public employees. This was a clear, blatant retaliation for me quite literally running press stories that didn't favor them. And they quite literally directly retaliated against me for it, saying essentially, no more stories. You cannot cover the 7th Judicial District Court anymore in your news stories. Over the last few months, we've fought back and forth on it. Local law enforcement has decided that these orders are completely unlawful and has refused to enforce them. And I am working on getting litigation filed against the 7th Judicial District Court for First Amendment retaliation. So I've continued to try to cover as much as I could with the 7th Judicial District anyways, while they're constantly kicking me out of court hearings, both
Can you pause for a
on
moment?
Zoom and in person.
Yeah.
So, what happens when you sue a court district in that district? Who, like, who do you, under what jurisdiction does this fall?
You take it to a level above. In this case, it would be the Supreme Court of New Mexico, because you obviously cannot get a fair judgment out of the court of which you're suing,
Right.
because they will all pretty much favor themselves.
Oh, so in that case, you can go directly to a higher court rather than just have to start at
Yeah,
the circuit court.
We've talked about states like Illinois and how they've tried to appeal injunctions going straight to a higher court when
Right.
they're supposed to first go to the judge that issued the injunction,
Yeah.
or bring to the higher court the idea that they can't get a fair hearing in that judge's court. It's a similar situation here, but as a citizen, you get a bit more leeway, where there is a presumption that you can't get a fair hearing in the court that you're suing.
Right. So is appealing an injunction, is that functionally similar to suing the lower court, or is this a different thing?
Appealing an injunction is purely an administrative motion.
Right.
It's not suing anything. It's trying to reverse a decision.
Right. I see.
Okay, we're gonna do a couple more minutes of this, and then we'll move to pizza.
Pizza.
Huh? Okay.
Person and completely retaliating against me and refusing to allow me to document what's going on in their courtrooms and their courthouse. New Mexico Supreme Court rules say that you can record court hearings, and that the only thing you need to do is notify them, not even ask them, but notify them 24 hours ahead of time that you will be recording. So I put in that notice. They denied my right to record, referring back to the original court order saying that I can't come to the courthouse at all because I've published news stories about them that are unfavorable to them. So this is me going back to the courthouse to try to get that court order from them that excluded me from the hearing as a retaliation of me exercising my First Amendment rights to free press and publishing stories that the government doesn't like.
I'll just give a quick summary of the rest of this video. Susan here, and I am now dubbing Karens as Susans. They are no longer Karens, they're Susans. Susan here called the police, upset that he violated the court, quote unquote, violated the court order, and the officers are going to come in, ask James what's going on. James is going to tell them that he's trying to file an IPRA, which is basically New Mexico's state law for freedom of information. And she's going to get pissed off that he doesn't get arrested for violating an unconstitutional court order. Okay. That's that. That's all we have on safe in rural areas. Some rural areas, perhaps, right now.
One quick question on that. You mentioned IPRA is it's basically the New Mexico version of FOIA.
Yep.
Isn't FOIA how does that isn't FOIA a federal law, and
yes, FOIA
would they have to, can they FOIA in New Mexico, or can they only IPRA, and how does that work?
FOIA is a cover-all federal law. It means that other states can have more restrictive laws on it, on freedom of information, but most of those laws are like the Sunshine Act in Florida, where there is no exceptions. They have to give you the information that you seek. But there are certain things that they can do. They can redact personal identifying information, and they can charge you. But there has to be an itemized an itemized list of what they're charging you for. It can't exceed a certain amount of money per charge, and they have to show how it was charged in the first place. Like if there's redactions, how long it takes to do the redactions, that sort of thing.
Right.
IPRA is quite similar.
So, but on that, so you can't, for example, like the federal law in this case, does not trump the state law. Like you have to, but you can't just generally, you can't FOIA. You have to go through the more or less restrictive state law rather than just directly FOIA them.
Yeah, it's very similar to, say, Perry versus Ohio. There's a more restrictive law. Now, granted, that more restrictive law favors the individual, but when you create a more restrictive law, it has to be narrowly tailored, and it has to at least benefit both sides of the law. So if you're going to make a more restrictive law than a state law that's more restrictive than the federal law, it is going to have to benefit not only the government, but it also has to favor the individual that may seek some sort of judicial action in the future under that law.
I see.
So let's see here. That's okay. We're good. So like in Texas, the ID law, it is more restrictive. Whereas what's a better comparison? Oh, New York. And this is actually something that's become a real problem in New York City. Cops do not like being video recorded in the lobby of their precinct. But there are 2 laws on the books in New York and in New York City specifically stating that in any public areas of a police station or a precinct, the people are allowed to record. And Long Island Audits has been arrested, I believe, twice so far in New York City. I think both times were in Brooklyn for recording in the police lobby. And they think that they can get away with it by saying he's trespassing. But the New York State and New York City codes both say that that is not a excuse to trespass someone.
Right.
So it's another law that's more restrictive, but in this case it favors only the individual.
All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, let us finish with pizza.
Yes, pizza. It's just a quick one. I have a question to ask both of you. What is your favorite type of crust?
I would have to say thin crust. Actually, I will preface this by saying I don't like crust. I'm one of those people who does not eat the crust of the pizza.
You are an abomination.
So that is why I prefer thin crust.
You are an abomination.
As I have said to numerous people over the years, it's called crust for a reason. It doesn't have a very appetizing. There's a reason the name crust isn't very appetizing, because it's not.
Okay, so
Personally,
on your sandwiches.
I cut the crust off. Yes.
Okay, what about your burgers?
I wouldn't necessarily say there's crust on burgers.
There is a crust on the burgers.
There is.
Burgers, sure. Burgers are the exception.
No, there's no exceptions. There's no rules here. Either you stick with one or you go with the other.
All right, what would you define the crust of a burger as?
The crust of the burger is the outer shell of the bread. That's what a crust is. The outer shell of a bread. When I bake bread, there is a crust on the outer portions of the bread. Now the crust can be thinner or thicker.
Could I remove the crust of a burger while maintaining its structural integrity? If I could, I would very much consider doing it.
If you try hard enough, probably.
But I worry that, sorry.
If you make the buns dense enough, yes, you absolutely can.
And I will have to try that. As I very much will stick to my anti-crust opinions.
Now, what you would have to do is substitute out a lot of the hydration that you would use to make the bread and substitute in a lot of fat, oils, eggs, milk, things that are fatty that are going to inhibit gluten production.
So is gluten responsible for crust?
Gluten isn't specifically responsible for crust. That's the baking. Baking is responsible for crust, because what you've done when you create bread is you've created a layer of starch on the outside, and whenever starch is heated, whether it be in a frying pan or in the oven, it's going to harden the outside, which is the crust.
Right.
So even just making a grilled cheese sandwich, when you make a grilled cheese in a pan, frying the bread, that fried portion that you've created, that's now crust.
So would that relate to also if you say, like, if you make toast, is the harder layer that has now been
Yep.
toasted also a crust?
That is now a crust.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's
And
it's quite literally just the exposed starches that are creating a crust.
I gotta say, I used to remove the outer like layer when I toasted breads.
Yeah.
I mean, like the dark brown layer, and I just
But
take
what's the
the
point
inner
of
part.
why would isn't that kind of the point of toasting? Like you
Well, I
toast it
was
and
a
then you
fucking,
remove the toast.
I was a
No, well,
child, but yes.
the point of toasting bread is to remove the hydration in the bread, make it more stiff.
Yeah.
Oh, and
That too.
before, as I noticed, we are running a bit out of time. We were talking about pizza. Molly,
Yes.
would you like to tell the world what a Serbian pizza contains?
I I
She knows she's
I
gonna get judged hard.
yes,
And
but I
when I say
don't
that,
make it.
I think you know what I'm talking about, Molly.
Yes, but I don't make it, okay? Don't judge me, okay? But
Just say
anyway,
it.
so the pizza, because we don't have fucking money here, is because yeah, all the bullshit. We basically use fucking ketchup as the base instead of like the sauce. And now do note that me and my girlfriend, when we made pizzas, we used the sauce, not ketchup.
Marinara sauce.
Yes.
In Serbia, they have ketchup pizzas, and they are every bit as awful as they may sound.
I
Despite
mean,
Molly, when you both used to be telling me like, "Oh, the ketchup pizzas are actually really good here,"
well,
before
because I didn't have better pizza. Okay.
Let
fair enough.
let me ask you something, Molly. How difficult is it to get tomatoes?
Not difficult.
Get some tomatoes. Literally, get some tomatoes. And stick them in a blender. Put in a little bit of water. If you've got a scale or something, weigh them out. Weigh the tomatoes out in grams, and add in about 10% of that weight in water.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in a blender with the stems pulled out of the tomatoes. I mean, you could probably dice them up. Uh, Toss in the tomatoes, toss in the water, blend them up, put them in a saucepan. Put that entire thing in a saucepan. Add in some seasoning, some oil, um, and let it reduce for 30 minutes to an hour. And then put it in a bunch of jars. And you now have your own personal pizza sauce.
Yes, no more of that ketchup pizza.
Yeah,
Awful
but I need
ketchup
to I
pizza.
need to address this. This isn't like my grandma used to make the pizza with ketchup, but there's also places that make like a fucking pizza place, and there was we bought 2 slices of pizza when Dale was here at
Mm-hmm.
a pizza place, and it had like Italian colors and everything like on the pizza place. So it was trying to be like Italian or some shit, and yeah, there's that, and
Fucking
then
ketchup.
I need to say this. My fucking favorite crust is the one where it's just stuffed with cheese. Now I'm a bit torn between thin or like slightly, more thicker, but definitely with cheese filled. My fucking favorite.
Well, when it comes to pizza, I can make several different types of pizza. We've got New York style, which is an Americanized take on a Napoleon pizza from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Neapolitan style pizza
Yeah, not
from
Napoleon.
Italy. Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Napoleon was Italian? Question mark.
No, he was a short French dude. Um, so New York style, Chicago style, which is what most people call deep dish. And the way in which you construct it is much more like a pie than it is a pizza.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Isn't that more of a pie? Like, why is it considered a pizza? It's like literally a pie with just toppings on top instead of inside.
Well, it is inside. It's the crust itself is more like a pie crust than it is a pizza crust because
Huh.
you've added a lot more fats into the dough.
Right, but like a pie has things in it. This thing, we actually when I worked at Big Pizza, we had the Chicago pan, and the inside is not filled with anything, just
A
dough.
a a a Chicago style deep dish pizza actually has its first layer of dough. It generally has a layer of mozzarella and provolone on the bottom. Then
Mm-hmm.
you go to the sauce, and a lot of different Chicago style pizzerias do this differently. One may just go straight into a layer of sausage on top and bake it. Others will add another layer of dough, uh, another very thin sheet of dough on top of those two layers, and then add another layer of sauce, and then add a layer of sausage on top, and then we'll bake it.
Sausage is not a good pizza topping.
Oh, it's an amazing pizza topping if you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, can be
Um,
pretty fucking good.
Now, from Chicago style, I can also make a Chicago tavern style. I can make a St. Louis tavern style. I can make pan pizza like you get at Pizza Hut. I can make that style of pizza is generally what people would consider either Detroit or Buffalo style. But those two styles differ slightly. Detroit style, you put down your cheese, you put down your toppings, and then you put down your sauce in lines. Whereas with a buffalo, that's more the traditional style that Pizza Hut uses, where you've got your crust, you've got your sauce, cheese, toppings, and it's all fried in a pan in the oven.
What does putting the sauce down in lines do? Because differently. 'Cause normally, don't they just they spread it out circularly?
That's in a round pan. That's for something like a personal pan pizza. When it comes to Detroit and Buffalo style pizzas, they're generally baked in a square a square blue steel pan.
Mhm.
And uh they're either rectangular or square. And when it comes to Detroit, I don't know why they put it down in line. I've got no clue. Who knows why people do these insane things?
Right.
I prefer my sauce to be under the cheese. That's just my
Yes.
preference.
Yeah, it's better that way.
But I would assume that having a layer of fat on top of the bread in between the moisture of the sauce and the dough it's actually going to fry the dough on both sides.
So,
instead of just on the bottom.
yeah, so here's a question for both of you.
Yeah.
What? Because we've discussed, for example, Chicago deep dish style pizza, all the various style. What is the essence of a pizza? Because there are a bunch of different things that we all can describe as pizza. So, what makes a pizza as opposed to something else?
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, that is pretty easy. A pizza is generally a layer of dough on the bottom,
Yep.
a layer of sauce on the top,
Yep.
a layer of cheese atop that, and then if you would like some sort of toppings besides that, those go on top of the cheese.
I would say
Fair
the
enough.
exact same thing, except instead of the toppings, I would just say maybe some spices like oregano or something. But I think the base, like core pizza that you can have, the soul of the pizza is basically like a margarita. Like that's the primal pizza, and then you can make some other pizzas based off of that. But that's
Yeah. Well, there are some pizzas known as white pizzas, I believe, that actually don't even have any sauce on them. But personally, I
Actually,
wouldn't eat that.
they generally have a white sauce.
Oh, fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
If it has no sauce and it has like cheese on top, that's a focaccia.
Yes.
I make a chicken bacon ranch pizza for Coda.
Mhm.
The sauce that goes down is ranch.
Hmm.
Then I put down mozzarella. Then I add bacon and chicken, and I bake it. That's
Yum.
that's a white pizza.
Hunger. Give.
Yes, well, we need to get you to the U.S. Besides that,
Immediately.
it it is coming and has passed that it's time for after hours, which means we're going to say goodbye to our viewers on YouTube, and we will.
Wait. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We should cover pineapple pizza because you can't talk about pizza without covering the elephant in the room.
We will discuss the abomination that is pineapple pizza in the next episode. I promise we will.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have spawned a child that likes it.
Oh no!
And
kill it with fire.
And we will discuss that in next weekend's episode. But for now, it is time for us to say goodbye to our viewers, our non-existent viewers on YouTube. And since Coda has already left, that leaves only 2 of you. So let's go ahead and start with our resident Serbian. Say goodbye to the audience, Molly.
Goodbye to the audience on YouTube and Coda.
And then we will transition to our native Soviet Kanakistani. Dale,
Well, then,
say goodbye, Dale.
ladies and gentlemen, that's all, folks. Goodbye, good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good anything.
And go
See you
fuck
next
yourself.
Yes.
And then I will say goodbye. I hope everyone has an uneventful weekend, because God knows we all just need to relax once in a while. And I hope you all have a good night. And with that, I will leave you with a song and see you next week.